I gotta show you this, Dave. I was with the. Samples for asbestos for the addition or the remodeling.
Oh, yeah.
We're in the ceiling.
Obama's here. Hit a water line break that went into the basin or whatever.
I gotta find a place for ductwork and some drywall to take. Looks over, he's like this, he looks back and he goes, you know, there's a
Little, well, we thought it was gonna be. Son, I called him, I said,
I don't know where this came from,
Point.
who did it. And a separate piece of drywall is above the ceiling, like behind Lori's
Actually, you can go
desk.
from there.
So like
I see on
in
the
the,
wall.
on the
But if
wall
this-
above the.
If this turns
tall
red,
ceiling, on the ceiling.
it means it's picking up.
And my rates.
Oh, darn.
And it's big. I mean, you have to take grit out to take and get it down.
Yeah, right.
So I intend to get it down.
So, okay, so it's not on the wall, it's.
Well, it's like another piece of drywall.
Oh,
They drew it on the drywall.
wow.
And that's,
It's really good.
yeah, really good. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'll take it down and I want to get some answers. Maybe somebody knows
Yeah.
how it got there, who drew it. There's no signature on it. It's really-
It looks like Debbie Harry from Blondie.
I was trying to place who it could be. Yeah. I think you'd be interested in that because you're in there every day.
Oh, God, yeah.
That's right. It'd be like, right behind Lori's desk up against the wall, more towards like Val McPherson's over.
Mhm. Guys, there's that much like room in between.
It's actually this ceiling there. Probably goes up another 5 feet.
So I'm thinking that for my public comment.
Detour and defer to Steve's belt. And he'd be like, thanks.
Because it appears that there are certain places that you have to block, you have to go an entire block.
You do, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I saw detour signs down on South Webb, all the way down to like
Yeah, that is kind of
Railroad, I was
interesting on
like,
Main Street that it's gonna
that doesn't
be
make any sense.
backwards.
Understand five.
At least on the page.
All the way to 12.
What's that all about?
They'll only use state highway, so that's why.
And what exactly is the
I remember getting rid of
detour?
but there was always
Purposes
so
of the
many.
roundabout construction.
The official detour is
Yeah.
double H to WD to K,
No fee.
but you could drive,
Okay, double, so double H.
Right, yeah.
WD to K. Okay.
but you could go north Dewey into town. Or, or that way. There's a bunch of different ways to get there. But that's the official.
I mean,
I don't think it's changed much. Right.
One in between.
I think we deferred.
Yeah.
Ryan, if this is be complaint driven. I think that.
And I like to get my photo in front of them.
I'm glad somebody's here.
Yeah, look at your, you gotta get on your website.
that is an issue. You know what?
Oh, right.
If I'm the only one, I don't even care.
Miller Span You're not on there. Yeah.
Feral or
I'll talk to,
Lucifers, whatever, maybe we just add.
Mike.
They have pictures there?
Chicken ordinance.
Mhm.
We never.
So at the public hearing, we'll add that in. If you guys just put it. Then Brian and I will work on that and add it into the next one.
Yeah, the fact that wasn't even in there from the get-go.
Yeah, and we had caught that, we had asked when.
The thing that came to my mind is that we deferred to Brian, you know what I mean? That-
Mr.
Yeah.
Brown.
Reminds me of my middle school days.
Lunchroom?
Yeah. Or, you know,
Right? Is Mike on?
bench on the ball team, whatever. It was kind of all over.
Mike Argano, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great, Mayor, and yourself?
Real good.
Good.
All right, we will call the meeting to order with roll call.
Over here.
Schulte, Gargano,
Here.
Caney, here, Friends,
Here.
Peterson, Knutson, here, Coomer.
Here.
Hey, Mayor.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The council will receive information on non-agenda topics brought before the council by members of the public. The council will not discuss these topics and will not take action on any of them at this meeting. Is there anyone who's not on the agenda wish to be heard? I think we're all here for the same purpose. We will go to consent agenda. One motion approves all consent items. Item 1 is approve or deny meeting minutes from March 10th, 2025, common council meeting. Number 2, approve or deny appointment of Jeff Searing to seat 6 of the Reedsburg Historic Preservation Commission. And number 3, approve or deny appointment of Eldon Colvin Jr., Jr. to seat 4 of the Police and Fire Commission. Any questions on the consent, or I'll take a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Caney,
A second.
seconded by Friends. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mayor proclamations and presentations. We're going to be proclaiming April 6th, 2025 through April 12th, 2025 of National Library Week. It's real winded. I'm not going to read through it. So he has not here anyways for the, we'll make sure we get this to her though. Make sure you go patronize the library, not just that week, but every week. Right, Mike Argano?
Absolutely.
All right, general business. Item 1, approve or deny resolution authorizing the issuance of and establishing parameters for the sale of sale of note to exceed. Does that mean not to exceed? Not to exceed $3,225,000 general obligation promissory notes. Carol, how are you tonight? I bet you want to talk about both these at the same time, don't you?
Don't mind.
I will, well, I'll introduce that too. We'll do them individually, obviously. And also approve and deny resolution authorizing the issuance and establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed $1,620,000 taxable general obligation promissory notes. Carol, the floor is yours. How are you?
Okay, doing very good. It was a nice drive up here in the sunshine, so
Yes, that's
Yeah.
great.
it was great. I do have hard copies of the report if anybody would like a hard copy. Otherwise, I'll just start going through the presentation.
Perfect.
Okay? Okay, all right. So I'm going to take them in reverse order. I started with 1,620,000 as being the parameters resolution that you're going to take action on tonight, and talked about, first of all, what that debt will be issued for. It's for the land acquisition, which was for development in tax increment District 11. And that amount is $1,392,573, and also to provide for a $50,000 developer incentive. And I believe that's tied to the theater project. Okay, so because those bond proceeds are going for specific private development, they have to be issued at taxable interest rates. They do not qualify for issuing them as tax exempt interest rates, which are lower. Okay, so that's the reason they have to be separated out as its own issue. Now, we're going with the dollar amount of $1,620,000. Right now, the two amounts that I just stated in terms of the purposes, we size the issue by saying, what else do we need besides funding the project? And what we need to do is we need to fund costs of issuance, and we also are going to fund the first year's worth of interest that would be due in 2026. Says we obviously don't have increment available in that first year, so we're going to what's called capitalize the interest. So right now, that exercise produces an issue size of $1,580,000. We don't know what the interest rates are going to be when we finally enter into the bond market. So we come up with a number that is very, very conservative, but allows for if interest rates are higher and the capitalized interest amount is greater. And we also don't know how much the underwriter is going to charge. Okay, we have a not to exceed number. And that not to exceed number is that $1,620,000. Okay, so therefore, the resolution that the council will consider tonight is in the amount of not to exceed $1,620,000. It also, the resolution contains certain what's called parameters that when we take bids, if the final results come in within those parameters, then your city administrator, or in his absence, the finance director has the authority to what's called award the notes to the successful bidder right away that afternoon. Okay, so the council's giving that authority by the adoption of the parameters resolution, as long as the final sale results come in within those parameters listed in the resolution. Okay, so this is the method that the city has used for the last several of its financings. Is prepared in exactly the same format. The resolution looks very long, like 30 pages, but really only about 7 or 8 pages of it are the resolution details. The rest of it are all exhibits that are attached to it that are all blank or empty or missing information at this time. So it's a resolution that also states the terms, when you're going to pay principal, when you're going to pay interest. They are technically a general obligation, so they are supported by the tax levy of the city, but it is also the intention that as TID increment from TID 11 becomes available, that it will offset that tax levy. Okay, so that's what's going on here with the first financing. And as you'll note on my first page of my presentation at the bottom, I have a number in the last paragraph, the first sentence, that has 3 extra zeros in it. So you are not borrowing $1,580,000. Okay, I do that just to see if you're reading the report. No. Okay, and the second page of the report actually shows you how this issue is going to be repaid. And that is between the years of principal will be repaid starting in 2027 through 2037. Okay. And right now, the true interest costs, the estimated true interest costs we're using is about 5.27%. That produces an estimated interest column, and then the total principal and interest are added together. We have a year of capped interest in 2026, which means there's no impact in 2026, but there is existing debt outstanding for TID 11. So when we add this new issue to the existing debt, we have what's called the combined debt service column. Okay, so the reason I'm pointing this out is because when we go to the next financing, we also have to pick up this issue, the existing TID 11 and this issue, and you'll see that. I'll call your attention to it in the next financing. Okay, we're moving on now to the second financing, which is the resolution for not to exceed $3,225,000. This is a tax exempt note issue. The projects are, first of all, to purchase the Land's End building, and that's $1,392,573. And also for the Viking Drive 19th Street roundabout in TID 11. And that's 1,626,742. Those are both purposes that qualify for tax exempt notes. So we put those together, but we still separate out the purposes because we want to keep track of what revenue stream is paying what debt service. So we have a sources and uses of funds that show you how we're doing that. So again, the city purposes, $1,392,000 is for the Land's End building. So municipals are in 5,000 denominations. So we're going to do $1,395,000. The TID 11 purposes, the roundabout. We also have issuance expenses and we're capitalizing that interest again. We're borrowing for the interest in 2026. So add all that together, and that now brings us up to $1,785,000. So right now, we're planning to go out with an issue of $3,180,000. Okay, but again, the resolution is for a not to exceed number of $3,225,000 because of the unknowns. We don't know how much the total interest cost is going to be. We don't know how much the underwriter is going to charge. So it's again just a conservative number so that the resolution contains parameters that the city administrator or finance director will use in knowing about awarding the notes to the successful bidder on the day of sale. So they are tax exempt and as such will qualify for lower interest rates. So the next page, numbered 4, shows you the repayment structure for the whole issue. So this is how you go out to the market, 2 purposes, but you combine the purposes for the sake of market. So we go out with $3,180,000. Principal starts in 2026 through 43. Okay, then we have estimated interest rates. In this case, the true interest cost is $420. A big difference than the taxable, right? And we have an estimated interest column and then the total debt service. Now, the next page is taking that schedule and pulling it apart and saying we have a part for the city portion, the library building, and that's $1,395,000. So you can see there how that portion is being amortized. So that's going to be taking that schedule we just looked at and pulling out the principal payments that belong to the city portion. So that goes from 26 through 2038. And that has the interest associated with that, the total principal and interest, and then we combine that with the city purpose existing debt service, okay? So this would be debt service that is supported only pretty much by tax levy. It has nothing to do with any tax increment districts nor any utility purposes. It is strictly city purposes. So we combine that and we get to that far right-hand column. So in 2025, that number was $1,191,100. With this debt issuance, it would go up to about the $1,290,000 level. But in our sources and uses of funds, it's saying there's a good chance that we'll get some excess premium from the investors. And if we do, that amount can be used to downsize that 2026 debt service number. Okay, so then the goal is to try and keep it as level as possible through the year 2033, and then it drops down to the $654,000 level. Okay, so that's your impact for city purposes. The next page shows you the rest of the schedule. Okay, this is again splitting off that first schedule we looked at, and this is the TID 11 portion. You can see here that the principal doesn't start until the year 2034. And then it goes out to 2043. That's the last year of the TID 11 maximum life at this time. Okay, so the reason the principal doesn't start until 2034 is because we have the taxable issue going on at the same time. And we're amortizing that principal between 27 and 34. See, so we want that taxable issue has a higher interest rate, so you want to pay off your more expensive debt first. So that's the reason why we're getting the taxable in the first years, and then we're wrapping this one around. So when you look at the existing TID 11 debt service, that's what's existing today, plus assuming the taxable debt service is already in place, and then combining it with this tax exempt portion, so you get the combined debt service column. So it goes from a level of 390,000 up to the 650 level, and then just a slight decline into the 595 level. So that's all TID 11 purposes combined. Okay, so that's the rationale behind the structure. Okay. Okay, so I'm on the last page, page 7, and I'm sure you're familiar with this. We're always preparing to go to the bond market in the same way, preparation of an official statement, which is basically a prospectus on the city. We work with your bond attorney, which is Quarles and Brady. They prepare the borrowing documents as well as the resolutions that you're acting on tonight. We go through Moody's rating presentation. Your current rating is an A1, and that was confirmed in December of 2024. We do an official notice of sale, put that out into the marketplace. We put it on various bidding platforms. We pester the daylights out of underwriters, asking them to bid on the issue. So that's what we are going to be doing at this time. And then when we take bids, we will notify your city officials, and then that's how we determine that those bids are in compliance with the resolutions that you're acting on tonight. And then Quarles and Brady will prepare a certificate for your city administrator or finance director to sign. And then that certificate goes to the underwriter, and the underwriter has been then awarded the notes. Then he can go forward with sending out notices to the actual investors. Okay. I put in a statement here about your debt limit, including the issues that we're talking about tonight. So that your debt limit is always dependent upon your most recent equalized value, and that number is TID in, and that's 5% of that number. And you take all principal outstanding, and we get to subtract off all your 25 principal payments. And we add in these 2 new issues, and you have remaining available 11,953,000 after these notes are issued. Okay. You get that number will grow as you continue to pay back principal and as your valuation grows. Okay, so that's how that number will continue to grow. And that's for all, that reflects your general obligation debt for all purposes, your TID purposes, your communications utility purposes. It does not include revenue debt. Revenue bonds do not come into play in this calculation. The timeline, as we're preparing for market right now, that would mean that on April 22nd, we will have a rating call with Moody's with the intention of taking bids on April 30th. And then all funds would be delivered to the city on May 19th. Okay. That's all I have for you.
Dave.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Carol, the taxable side. At work, and are the
Yes, in terms of the early call, I can answer that. Yes, we put a call on them. A standard call would be if you have a 10-year issue, you'd put a call on 8, and that's what exists on that one. Mm-hmm. So.
Correct. Yeah, the revenue from the lots can be used to pay off that debt. And that would be the plan. Correct.
Correct.
Safeguarded. Perfect. Answered both questions. Thank you.
Great. Okay.
Any other questions for Carol? You do a great job explaining it.
Good.
Make
I
it
hope
easy.
so.
We will have new members this next month, so there might have to be a little bit of more Carol time to make sure they know how everything works.
That's great.
Yes,
I'd be happy to do so.
we appreciate what you do. Thank you, Carol.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you much.
All right, I'm going to go over these again. So number one is a approved and I resolution authorizing the issuance and establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed $3,225,000 of general obligation promissory notes. Any other questions, or I'll take a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Kaney, seconded by Knutson. Anything further? Roll call whenever you're ready, Jake.
Moon. Aye. Gargano.
Aye.
Kaney.
Aye.
Friends. Peterson. Or I'm sorry, Knutson.
Aye.
Coomer.
Aye.
Thanks.
All right, and number two, approved and I resolution authorizing the issuance and establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed $1,620,000 taxable general obligation promissory notes. Motion by Knutson,
Second.
seconded by Moon. Anything further? Roll call whenever you're ready, Jake.
Moon. Aye. Schulte. Oh my gosh, I cannot get it right tonight. I'm so sorry.
Milwaukee.
I'm losing it. Moon. Gargano.
Aye.
Kaney.
Aye.
Friends. Knutson.
Aye.
Coomer.
Aye.
Great.
All right, thank you very much. Again, thanks, Carol. Recommendations from boards, committees, and commissions. We have a bunch from the Public Works, but we're going to go to Plan Commission first. Number one is recommendation from Plan Commission, approved and I certified survey map to divide property at E6352 Ski Hill Road, 030-0606-00000 and 030-0606-1000. Michaela Garans, Veerbecker. Neil, how are you?
That's bad. You?
Good.
I'm Neil Pfaff with Veerbecker. What this is Freeman Decora is selling to an adjoining property owner. So it's actually not a lot division. The reason this is before you today is because this is in the ETZ area. This has been approved by the town board and plan commission, and it's also been recommended to the council by the city board. So what we're looking at is selling 0.65 acres, 20 feet on the north or the eastern edge and approximately 30 feet on the northern edge to Bill and Wendy, to Blaine and Wendy Bill from Freeman Decora.
Question? No. As I said, we talked about this at Plan Commission. It was a pretty much a straightforward, with the township approving, it was looked pretty straightforward. Take a motion if one's in order. Motion by Knutson,
Second.
seconded by Kaney. Anything further? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number two is another recommendation from the Plan Commission, approved an I site plan for proposed movie theater at 220 Viking Drive, parcel 276-2719-00000 and 276-2720-00000. Neil, welcome back.
Thanks. Thanks. So this movie theater has been a long time coming, as probably everyone's aware. It got put on hold because of COVID in 2020.
To be exact, Neil, December of 2018.
Oh, yeah, that's true. The beginning of it. So what we're looking at is a 66,225 square foot building. It has 6 movie screens. It's got a total occupancy of 650 people and a total auditorium seats of 492. There's a lease agreement between the adjoining property owner, the Pierces, to accommodate the parking area, because this says minimal parking. There are renderings in the packet of the building face and then elevations of the building facade. This does have stormwater management associated with it. The DNR stormwater management permit has been approved, and the site is ready to be constructed.
Any questions for Neil? And this is unanimous from the Plan Commission as well. Another question, no other questions? I'll take a motion if one's in order. This is just a approval.
Oh, approval. Move to approve.
Move to approve. Motion by Knutson. Seconded by Caney. Anything further? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Neil, thanks for all your work on that. Glad to see that moving forward. Number 3 from the Plan Commission, recommendation from the Plan Commission, first reading and set public hearing for ordinance amending Reedsburg Code Section 690-46 sub G, increasing the allowed number of chickens permitted and other amendments.
I can take it.
If you want to take it, that'd be great. I know we talked about it planned, but you'll fill in the dots.
Sure. In short, currently the ordinance allows for 4 chickens and the ordinance increases that to 8 chickens. The original chicken ordinance was passed a while back with the thought that it might get increased. And Brian has basically said that he's heard crickets in terms of complaints on the 4, which is why the recommendation is to increase it to 8.
This all stems from a Kathy Anderson calling me, wanting to know about, and the number 8 came from her. 8 chickens, because with the prices of eggs the way they are. And I've had no calls at all about problems with chickens. So I know Dave Knutson has some thought about something that wants to add to it for the public hearing. Go ahead, Dave, floor is yours.
Yeah, and as you are aware, I was with you when this was originally brought up with plan and then to council, and there was a ton of discussion. One of the most packed I've ever seen the gallery was about chicken.
Well, there's a lot of people here that night.
Yeah, there was a lot of people. One thing that we failed to do in the original ordinance way back then was to put in or include enforcement in the case of violations. So I would move, I don't know if it would be a amendment to a motion. So I would move to set the public hearing with a motion to add a enforcement mechanism to the ordinance.
Best way to do that.
That's fine.
Is that fine? Okay.
Oh, we're taking out the permit fees for for this too, but they're still gonna have to file a
Though,
permit
just so
with
we have
Brian.
record of where people are at.
Is there enforcement on that part?
Complaint driven, and we've only have had 0
Okay,
for
'cause we,
that issue. So
I guess my only thing, we raised, I've got 4 in my backyard.
Your Honor,
Um,
just for the purposes of discussion, I'll remove my motion for the moment.
yep. Oh yeah, perfect. Yep.
So we've got 4 in our backyard. I was woke up by the cops because there was a loose chicken closer to the foundry. And we had all 4 of ours, but we were the only police registered anywhere near
Area,
in that
yeah.
area. So obviously there's other people raising chickens that aren't permitted or anything like that. So
And that's like anything. I think enforcement could be interesting. You know, you just don't know. Yep.
yeah, and I'm not sure what the
Right.
right answer is. I just
Right.
know that there's people out there that have chickens that aren't doing any of the paperwork. So,
So keep the honest people honest.
right.
In all the years, the only call I've ever gotten was about someone keeping a rooster. Not about the chickens themselves, just the rooster crowing.
I've had calls about chickens getting out. So I mean, it's not accurate to say there've been no complaints.
Right.
Let's just say officially there's been, yeah.
I'm not opposed to taking the permit fees completely out. I guess I was curious what the thought process of that was, because I would think those fees are in place. Are I was curious if we just don't, if no.
I think the thought process when we were talking about that plan commission was there is so few want to have if there's that much, of that being prevalent in the city where there's no permit, people got chickens. We don't want to have it where there is no permit period. It'll be free and rampant. Like I just, said, keeps the honest people honest. It'd be complaint driven on my thought for those that aren't getting a permit. As far as a fee goes, I mean, if you want to have I don't know what the fee was before.
35 and 10, I
5 and
believe
10.
originally 35,000 or 35,000.
Sure.
$35, I think, was the original fee, and a $10 annual thereafter, I believe.
Right.
That's what's crossed out there, yeah.
Yep.
But I think Dave proposing a penalty provision kind of takes care of that in the event that people aren't registering them. You get the penalty for not having them registered, and basically it's free to register them. So get it, otherwise you're going to get the penalty for not registering them.
Yeah, you're right, because then adding that enforcement part will.
Yeah, and then the 3 violations may be more pertinent. Because it comes down to basically Brian and hopefully not the police department. But
Andy, you want to chase chickens? No. I should say, have you had to chase chickens? No. Okay, good. Okay, so if you want to.
I will make a motion to set the public hearing with the caveat of including a penalty provision.
And have Max and Brian work.
Brian work on that. Yep.
Have a motion.
Second that.
Seconded by Katie. Anything further? Mike, you hear that okay? You understand what they were talking about?
Yes, I'm all against unregistered chickens. I want to go to the.
And like that, he's gone.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to set public hearing with the added with the enforcement code, or added to the code. So we'll have that. When is that public hearing for, Max? Usually I like to say that too.
Public hearing would be April 28th.
Okay, so first reading is set public hearing for April 28th. Have a motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That was a good discussion on chickens. Once again, Dave. All right, now we're on to Steve. Number 4, recommendations from Public Works Committee. First reading and set public hearing for ordinance adding Reedsburg Code Section 615-9 sub B, 25, 27, and 28, adding no parking zones on 19th Street between North Dewey Avenue and North Viking Drive. Steve, how are you tonight?
This came up actually a couple of years ago with the hospital project. So we put a temporary no parking because of safety issues on that north side of 19th between Dewey and Riverview Drive. So, or Ridgeview Drive. And then also with the field house, when it opened, we had a lot of issues with parking on both sides there. So we put no parking temporary on the north side. So we like to do an ordinance to make it permanent. So it'd be the north side, you can see on the map by the field house, and then a little bit on the south side, basically from the driveway over, it'll be to the new roundabout when that's done. And then a little bit between that driveway just west of Sunset, and there's a little piece in there where people park and it's hard to see around that corner on where the blue sections are. So this went to Public Works and we discussed it and we recommended it be a permanent no parking.
Any questions for Steve or before we set public hearing?
Maybe just a comment, Your Honor.
Yes.
And the reason for this is obviously just a game. And as we're all aware here that we just redid all the parking lots and they're parking on the street. People are parking on the street versus parking in parking lots. Steve has reached out to Just Game to ask them to to reach out to their clients and let them know that the parking is available. But to thus point, it hasn't been to any avail. They've been parking on the streets. So, and that's what propagated this.
They parking on the street because the lot's full?
No, sir. The 300 car parking lot along on what the carnival sets up in is mostly empty.
Okay.
And Public Works, we've discussed putting in a couple of changes in the driveway system to make it easier accessible and some signage to make sure that people are aware that the large parking lot is available. So there are plenty of spots. When you add all three parking lots up, there should be more than adequate parking for even if events are being held in all three facilities. It's talk in the winter. You're right. But they're parking far enough away that I don't know, that might
Be closer just to park in the parking lot.
correct, because they've been parking
Safer too.
way up on Sunset even and walking down. So
As they get bigger and bigger events, they're like Attorney Hassler and I were just talking a couple weeks ago. They had a wrestling tournament there. There had to be, I don't know how many thousand people there. I'm sure that the lots were full and the streets were full.
Yeah, and that wrestling tournament, that lower lot you're talking about was about three quarters full. They were using it that weekend, but they were still on 19th too.
Yep.
But it's like Missy said, it's just closer.
Yep.
We're gonna park as
It's-
close as they can.
They think they're getting, yeah. Uh-huh. Any other questions? I'll take a motion to set public hearing. Friends? Have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Katie.
Leave it hanging.
Anything further? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is that
same date.
the same date, 26th?
April 28th.
April 28th? April 28th will be that one. All right, we'll go to recommendations from Public Works. We got a bunch of them here. Steve, you just want to go through these and I'll just go on the line afterwards and approve them all?
Sure.
Okay.
So we had our bids last week, or a couple weeks ago. So curb and gutter, this is for the Second Street. We're gonna do Second Street from Webb to Park and a little bit on Walnut. So we'll just do spot repair curb and then spot repair sidewalk. So we had two bidders, and Renac Construction was the low bid for that project. And then we also bid the blacktop for that same project. And we just had one bidder with DL Gasser. So recommend a low bid there, obviously. The price was pretty close, just a little bit more than last year. So we still got a pretty good price. And then Ray Zobel and Sons for the equipment, that's the annual equipment basically used for emergency call outs between us, the Public Works and the water utility. So these are the rates that they would charge, and then also on our projects that we do with them. So recommend Ray Zobel. You want me to go over the other one too?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we'll do the equipment and all that.
Then we bid out the sewer and the water for that project. There's a little bit of water main to do on Second Street, and then also some sewer that's in rough shape. So we did them separately. If you look on the bid tab, we had two bidders, Gerke and Tri-City Contractors. Gerke was the low bid, $294,183. So the water distribution portion, what we do, that's about $137,000 worth. So at the end of the project, once we get all the billing, the city will pay the contractor, then we will bill the water utility that portion. And then internally, that 107 for the sewer will get charged to the sewer utility. And then that 51,000 up above for the basically miscellaneous items, that'll get divided between the two utilities. So there's no cost to the general fund. It's been working out pretty good. We've been doing this the last 5-6 years like this, where we bid the water and the sewer together. We're just afraid if we bid them separate, we'd end up with two different contractors.
Right.
And then we'd have a That wouldn't be good.
No.
So,
All right. Yeah. All right, we'll start with, where were we at here? Number 5. Recommendation from Public Works Committee, approve or deny award of public curb, gutter, and sidewalk contract to Renhat Construction. Any questions on that?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Kaney. Seconded by Friends. Anything further? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recommendation from Public Works, approve and deny award asphalt pavement contract to DL Gasser.
Second.
Seconded by Kaney. Anything further? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 7, recommendation from Public Works, approve and deny award heavy equipment rental contract to Ray Zobel and Sons Incorporated.
To approve.
Motion by Kaney,
Second.
seconded by Moon. Anything further? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 8, recommendations from Public Works Committee, approve, deny, award 2nd Street Sewer and Water Reconstruction to Gerke Excavating Incorporated. Any
To
questions?
approve.
Motion by Kaney. Seconded by Knutson. Anything further? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll go back to you, Steve, for sidewalks. Is that the repair program or is that just for
this is
the
the,
contract?
this is a repair program. So this is the area that every year we'll go around and mark. So for this year, we're looking at 2 areas, G and H, on our sidewalk repair map. So it'd be this A Street to the north, Dewey to the west, and then all the way to the east to the city limits and to the south. So there isn't a lot in, most of it is in the residential area, just east of Dewey and up on top of the hill behind the old Verbecker office. And then, because a lot of the area in the industrial park has no sidewalk, so we try to do those 2 together. So we'll look, so these will get marked and then notices go out. And then this is the city crews will do this work. That's what we did last year and it seemed to work out. We can keep the price down for the residents by doing it that way. We just basically charge for the concrete. So there is on that second paragraph, whereas that 2023 should be 2025.
Questions for Steve?
Public Works recommended approval.
And if I could, Your Honor, I believe this is the 3rd round through, Steve, is that?
Yeah,
And
it's at least, that's the 3rd, yeah.
This will tell you how long it's been around. The first time around, I remember when we first introduced this program, Bob Utley was still on the council with
Yeah,
me.
I
That's
think I
how long
started it
it's
the
been.
first year I was here, so
think
it's
the
been
first-
25 years.
and as this program has gone on, every year it's less and less. So, and I did notice that we probably need to adjust our map because we've grown a little bit. But having said that, it's working out and it's working well. I would recommend that we continue this program, and I would recommend that we approve resolution 4573-25.
Motion by Knutson. Seconded by Friends. Anything further? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 10, recommendation from Public Works Committee, approve and deny relocation order for City of Reedsburg 19th Street Roundabout Project. Thank you, Steve. Max.
Yeah. So for the 19th Street roundabout, there were 2 properties that the city had to acquire, very small pieces of property in order to fit in the roundabout. And we've actually negotiated with both landowners and closed on both of those on Friday. However, they have 6 months to argue about it if they want. So we have to do a relocation order by statute. And the plat has already been recorded with the county clerk, so that part's done. The council just needs to approve this. It's essentially stating that the city is proposing to potentially take property for a public purpose.
Max, would you share, maybe I'll just share it and you can affirm it, that the amount of property that was needed in order to purchase or we needed to purchase was very, very small. The price of the two properties combined was less than the costs to appraise and process all the work. Just as an example, the added costs more than doubled the price of what.
Yeah, the appraisal was 4,000 and the properties together were 4,000. Plus we had to record the deeds and everything. So, however, if the value that you're proposing to take for the entire project is over $1,000, we have to go through that process. So it's unfortunate, but the landowners were great to deal with. So we didn't have to go any further.
Is that in the form of a motion?
I will make a motion that we approve the relocation order for the city of Reedsburg 19th Street roundabout.
Motion by Knudsen,
Second.
seconded by Moon. Anything further? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Max, thanks for your work on that.
Yeah.
City administrator reports.
Sure. I'll try to be brief. So the Parks and Recreation booklet is out. It's a really good resource for people to look at to see what's going on from the parks, but also for other community events. The parks are looking to hire lifeguards. The starting wages are between $15 and $17 an hour. So if anybody knows anybody looking to be a lifeguard, please have them apply. As you'll see, there's a lot of construction going on. 19th Street roundabout just closed today. That'll be closed through July. Just make sure to follow the signs. Steve's crew did a really good job of being specific in the signs. For example, the one here, it says, or the one coming from the south states that it's open to the field house, so people know that. And I believe the one from the north is going to say open to Farber Funeral Home, so it gives people landmarks to know where it's open and where it's closed. The sidewalk ramp project has also started on Main Street. Steve believes through the state that that's hopefully going to be done by May. So if it's done in May, that would be better than last year. The airport is selling one of their hangars. People have until March 28th to submit an offer. They can drop it off at City Hall or they can send me an email. We have received offers. So it's just open till Friday. Other than that, I think this will be the last meeting for Dave, Adam, and Mike. So I want to thank you guys for
Typically, people are here the first meeting in April. That's always been the case.
that's something that Mayor will talk about in just a second.
Okay.
But I think this will be the last meeting. So I just want to thank you guys for your service. Obviously, I've only been here for a little while, but I've been here as city attorney for a couple of years, and I really appreciate the effort that you guys all put into the city.
Perfect. Let's see. Commission, committee, board, and staff reports. REDC.
REDC had the business breakfast.
Yep.
Which is a really well-attended event at the library. And the next business meeting is in May at the utility. So if you're interested, you should go to it. You get a lot of good background information and people put on good presentations.
Public Works.
I was unable to attend, so I want to thank Phil for filling in for me, but it was everything that was addressed this evening, so.
All right, Utility Commission.
Utility met on the 17th of March. Scott Waffle was recognized. He's been with the utility for 25 years. He's the electric foreman. The Reedsburg PD provided drug awareness training for the utility employees. There's a lot of those employees that have to go into customers' homes. And so this was very, very well needed and very well appreciated for the PD to come in there and talk to them about being aware of possible issues with drugs in people's homes. The DNR did the annual water inspection, and that's always a good thing. No deficiencies. Reedsburg's water is safe. USDA loan documents were approved for broadband expansion, so that can go forward. And we also approved 3 bids for fiber projects starting as soon as the frost is out. And we're also going to be offering a new advanced residential Wi-Fi router that will be coming out in the next few weeks as well. So another good meeting.
Always something good cooking up at the Utility Commission, for sure. Let's see, Plan Commission. We talked about the plans for the field or the theater that we talked about tonight that you approved, and that division of property too in the ET that was approved, and chickens. We talked about chickens, not quite as extensively as we did here, but we talked about chickens. Library Board.
Well, as Max mentioned, the Yard Easy breakfast was held on the 21st, and I think Max, there was about 45 attendees. Suhan was very pleased with how that went. So 4 of the library staff members recently toured libraries in DeForest, Wanakee, and Baraboo. We keep gathering information as we move forward with the plans for the new building. Pi Day was also a huge success. Architects interviews are going to be held the first week of April with the 3 firms that submitted bids. And as the mayor mentioned, April 6th to the 12th is National Library Week. The other thing that's coming up on the 2nd and 3rd is Clear the Slate. We're inviting anyone who is interested in taking some of the remnants of the office material, office supplies, office furniture, I should say, from the Land's End building on the 2nd and 3rd in the afternoon. Those will be not free, but we're asking a minimal donation to take those off of our hands before we clear out that building. So that's all I have.
Be ramping up quite a bit at the library board for sure. Be a lot of work going on there. Let's see, CDA. Jason's not here.
I was at that meeting.
Okay.
I can give you, there was 4 incubator applications. 2 were repeats, and they both received additional funding, but less because their businesses were doing well, which was good. There was 1 person that got new funding and a 4th person who was kind of in the beginning of their process, but is going to come back once they get their ducks in a row. So it was a productive meeting.
Very good. Thank you. Any other committee, commission, staff member, anything they want to report? All right, Office of the Mayor, as Max kind of preluded to, with the fact, Jason Schulte brought this up at the last meeting, the fact that this year it lays out that we would have a common council meeting on the 14th and then reorg the following day on the 15th, whether we could combine the 2 on the 14th. So in other words, we would do reorg prior to the council meeting on the 14th and fall right into the council meeting as soon as reorg is done. And if everyone's in agreement with that, I think that's what we should go ahead and do. Kind of sprung on this your last meeting, but just to kind of keep things even flow. And like Jason said, it's just one less thing I have to worry about. And I think it frees up. I think there's parks that night as well, right? The 15th. Excuse me. Right. So we're going to.
And it'd be on Tuesday.
On Tuesday. I'm backed up. It'd be Tuesday, not because we have to reorg on Tuesday. Yeah, I misspoke there. So the common, we would reorg first, then go right to the common council meeting afterwards on Tuesday. More than likely, depending on the agenda. So would. Reorg takes like 5 minutes. Everyone all right with that? Now I have it. Mike Argano, you understand what I was talking about there?
Right, because as Dave Moon pointed out, I think it was Dave, anyway, that normally the outgoing members, that would be the last meeting on the 14th. But what you're saying is that you're not going to meet on the 14th, you're just going to push the 14th to the 15th? Is that?
Yes, yep. Even though I said it wrong, yeah. We meet, so reorg will be at 5 o'clock on Tuesday, the 15th, and then immediately following that, we would have common council after that.
No, I understand.
Okay. We will go forward with that.
You know, Dave, do you have to, you know, as far as open meeting laws and everything, do you have to necessarily post that in advance so that people will realize there is not a meeting on the 14th?
Yep. Yeah, they're all, I already got that pre-worked up, just waiting for the approval.
Okay. Yeah, I understand.
Okay. And to mention, you know, you said about Pi Day, Mike, I was fortunate enough to get over there. There was a line out the door early on. I got there about 9:15 and the line cleared up, and I'm glad that they limited to 3 pie per people because I actually got a couple pies this year.
Yeah, no, it turned out very, very well. So.
And I know Sue Ann said it was like $5,000 that was raised for profit, which is awesome. Yeah, that's a good fundraiser.
Actually, the line was there because everybody was hoping to get a glimpse of you, dear.
All right. I think I have nothing else I can think of at the top of my mind right now. So I know Jake's got something he wants to talk about, I'm sure, about the first.
Early.
We'll go around the horseshoe though. Jake Coomer.
That's a nightmare.
Dave Knudsen, I know you weren't prepared for this,
I am not
but
prepared for this, but I guess I'll take the personal privilege.
take all the time you want.
Thank you. 15 plus years I've been sitting in one of these 2 chairs. I know more now about sewer than I ever imagined I would, or care to. When I came here 15 plus years ago, it was just post the 2008 flood. And I was very, very vocal and very, very critical of the council at that time and the leadership of the community. And a name from the past, Russ knocked on my door and said, I have to move. My house was flooded. Now it's time for you to put up or shut up. Well, I put up and I've never shut up. I've made some good friends off this council. We've lost a few. Kind of bittersweet to say goodbye, but it's not necessarily goodbye because I intend on doing some things with the city, but just not in this chair anymore, or at least for a while. But I want to thank you, Your Honor, because you became mayor right after I came on the year next, and we've had a great relationship.
Yeah.
We've had great administrators. We've had a couple that weren't so good, but we've had great administrators that have helped us navigate through a lot of the problems that I saw in 08. And I think the councils have done a real remarkable job with the help of the staff, Steve and the like, to Tim Becker as chief and then administrator. Josh Kowalski with emergency management. My big thing was to protect the city's assets, and with the building of the sewer plant, all of those goals that I had set out 15 years ago will be met. Which gets me to my point. It takes a long time to get anything done. I was awful critical, and sitting here today, I don't know that a lot of it was warranted because it's not like business that a decision can be made and it can happen. It takes a long time, takes a lot of process, and some of those processes I thought I understood, but now I know then I didn't. Today I know more than I care to in some cases, but I want to thank the city because it's always the representatives of the cities, because even if we didn't agree up at this circle on the horseshoe, everything has always been cordial. We can agree to disagree. We can have different political views or opinions. And when we see each other, it's still a smile, a handshake, and a hello, whatever. And that's not the normal in politics. I like to say we're not politicians up here. We're just people paying the bills for the city.
I've been saying that for 15 years.
Yeah. So I want to thank my fellow council members, past and present, because it's a club that I can say I've been very proud of to be a part of. So thank you all, and we'll see you on the street. Thanks.
We'll see you back in some form or other.
Yeah. Well, Your Honor, one last moment. I said, the thing about not being on the horseshoe anymore is that if my dander gets riled, I'll be out there, and you bet your bottom dollar I will be. So.
Missy Friends.
I wasn't prepared for that either. But no, Dave, I'm so happy that you never shut up, I think is what you said. Because I thank you so much, because every time that you had a concern and you spoke up, I learned something. And as a we'll call new-ish council member, those learning opportunities are huge for me. And I really appreciate all the insight that I got from you. Thank you, Mike Gargano. You've always taken me under your wing, especially with the Utility Commission. Very much a mentor for me. And Adam, I got to sit by you. So
What more could you want?
But same thing. I've learned a lot from all of you. So thank you so much for all of your service. Appreciate it.
Adam Caney.
I'm not a person of words. I'll just say it's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed being up here. I might come back someday. You don't know. I've learned a lot doing it. I'm glad that I did it, and I would recommend anybody else that has an interest to do it. So that's all I got.
Max Buckner.
Nothing more from me.
Jake from City Hall.
Yes, early voting started last Tuesday. You have until Friday at 5 o'clock to vote early here at City Hall. Additionally, if you're running for a write-in, we need that paperwork back by Friday at 5.
Very good. Attorney Hassler.
Nothing, thank you.
And way over there, Dave Moon.
Yeah, I told Joe before, I feel like, I'm back in middle school at the lunch table. This has a familiar ring. Thanks to those of you who are wrapping up your terms. Thanks for stepping up. And, we hear it, we can read it on community Facebook pages and whatnot. There are a lot of people who seem really eager to gripe about anything that the city does. And yet, we have to rely on write-in campaigns for council. People don't step up and serve. So, to the three of you, thanks for serving, because it's what we're all called to do. And I wish more people would do that. Mr. Knudsen particularly, and I was a pretty new council person. I think I got on in 2007, and, just in time to be sitting over there somewhere for the flood. And I remember the meeting across the street and downstairs. Actually it was. Yeah. And I'm like, who is that crazy angry guy in the tank top? My word, and then it's like, oh my God, he's going to be on the council. Well, then I taught and coached your kids, and I've gotten to know you all these years, and blessed to count you as a friend. And thank you for opening my eyes. I learned an awful lot sitting across from you over the years, and more than you know, and you mean a lot to me. And you got the nicest wife in the whole world, and that's for sure. And I'm sure she's really glad that you're done. So, I'd be really upset about you leaving if it weren't for her. So.
And last but certainly not least, Mike Gargano.
I'll give you the Cliff's Notes version. I've thought about the last meeting. I thought I had a couple more weeks, Dave. But anyway, I want to tell you a story. This goes back to the end of the Second World War. And my dad came back from the service and moved back to northern Minnesota. We had been born and raised, and opened up a small gas station. And for those of you who are old enough to remember, this was before self-service. This was strictly a gas station. Every gallon that we sold, we pumped. And I remember helping as I got into my high school years. And one day, somebody came in and told my dad something about, he said, "Boy, it must be nice to be your own boss." And my dad, who was never at a loss for words, said, "I work for every so-and-so who walks in that door." And call it customer service 101. A few years later, I graduated from the University of Minnesota with a degree in business, but I think I learned more about business at that gas station than I ever learned at the university. And I've had a number of jobs over the years, and I've realized that we're all working for somebody else. And right now in Reedsburg, what is it, Mayor? We've got about 10,000 bosses. You know, we're working for all those people. And no business survives without customers. And we are in the customer service business on the city council. That's the nature of public service. And it's been an honor and a privilege to serve those people. Fortunately, we haven't irritated too many of them over the years, but you can't please all the people all the time. But it's been great working with the city staff and with the other members of the council. And like Dave Knutson said, you never know when we'll be up at that podium. The bad thing is, Dave, you have to remember, we've got a 5-minute time limit, see?
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, thank you. Thank you to everyone. And if he was there tonight, I would send out a special thank you to Phil Peterson, who's been a mentor with me. He was the first one that I talked to before I ever started considering this. And I wish he could be here for me and for him tonight. So he's done a great job. So that's all I had. Thank you.
All right. I am not prepared for this either, but Adam and Mike and Dave, thank you for your service to the city and its citizens. A lot of great things have been done around this horseshoe during your time. And I got to go back to Dave. You know, Dave, we've been at this for a long, long time. Many after meeting heart to heart we've had out in the parking or out in the street here, and bounced ideas off each other, good and bad and indifferent. And as you kind of mentioned, you know, there may be disagreements around this horseshoe. At the end of the day, we're all doing what's best for, as Mike just said, our customers, which we are. We're a business. The citizens are our customers. You're all going to be missed. You all have your own way of doing things, and that's what makes up the chemistry of this horseshoe. And big holes, big shoes to fill. So enjoy your time away, as Mike and Dave alluded to. If you ever get to the podium, I will tell Jake to still shut the timer off. Especially for you, Dave, because I know once you get going, it's hard to quit. And we're going to miss that spunk. Not being afraid to, you know, if somebody in the audience is not happy, to let them know that we're sorry, but this is just the way it goes. Yeah, like I said, big shoes to fill. And as someone mentioned, I think Dave Moon did, the fact that we rely on write-in candidates to fill positions is actually kind of sad. We're a city of 10,000 people, but we just can't get, that's everywhere. It's not just Reedsburg. It boils down to even like your youth sports organizations. It's everywhere. It's tough to get people to serve. When you get good people to serve, you want them to squeeze every ounce of energy you can out of them, because the day comes like we are now where we're going to lose Adam, we're going to lose Mike, we're going to lose Dave. But thank you from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of everyone in the city for what you've done over these years to make the city of Reedsburg what it is now and what it will be in the future. All right. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn. Who wants that one?
I do.
Motion by Knutson. Who wants to second that?
Second.
Seconded by Gargano. Anything further? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Didn't think so. Motion carries. Thanks again, everyone.